Hello, welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at Sabkah, which is in Raqqa province. Essentially what they're doing in this instance, they're not taking out this whole sort of front. They're basically trying to isolate this pocket here, so they're taking out these units. I wouldn't say it's a particularly great example of grand strategy, but it's sort of what's happening. Gives us an interesting sort of dimension on things. So essentially, to sort of put it into graphic detail, where this is going, in theory, going to remain as the pocket, which is isolated from this side, and this side, and then they're going to move in and take all of that. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is that this is the Euphrates, I think. It's all backed up by that, so there's no crossing it, there are no bridges over it, and so they're obviously fighting with their back to the river, which is something that's been done before, but it's obviously not a good position to be in. So anyway, trying to take out this unit here, so or focusing on this part of the map here, as we're doing, you can sort of say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, to start off with, start looking at the units in there and looking at the units that we've got to move in with them. So let's reload that. So what we do have here on this hill, which is Tal Kara, is a big stack of artillery with some units. So when I say a big stack, there's 2 artillery companies, but they've got 8 range. Now that means that you could, in theory, play to take out everything. But if you start looking at the numbers, and I haven't done this yet, because obviously as anyone that follows my videos knows, I really don't think that far ahead in things. It's the first time I'm really looking at it, but when I built it, you've got these, which they shouldn't really have this place, to be quite honest. It's a mistake. Not sure why that's a fort. But basically they've got these forts, and in the forts they've got rockets. They don't have a 4 range, but they're forts, so anything in there is going to be pretty well defended, although there's not actually much in there. There's just some irregular units, but they've got plenty of these sort of small companies, so ISIS really all they have to do is start filling these up, and this is quite defendable ground, especially if these units, let me get my little map tool out to make it a little easier, especially if all these units move into here. I don't think you'll find that there are the numbers to take out all of this, but there should be against here. So the Syrian army is quite weak over here, but in theory quite strong. I mean, this stack has got 2 tank units in there, plus 2 special forces, which have their own special skills. The only other thing to sort of point out, we've got rockets in there and tanks, rockets and mechanised. Over there some mechanised and some motorised, and down here quite a bit of motorised with rockets. But the only thing to sort of say is that we've got some tribal units. Now we've got 2 lots of them. Now the thing is, when I first heard tribal units, I thought, well, they must mean tribes, but they're not really. I think that the term tribal units is a sort of similar reference to, say, tiger units. They're not actually tigers. The tribal units, I think, have some probably other sort of derivative meaning. Like if you look at the actual, I can't remember where it is now, maybe I should have linked it, but there's a list of all the current military units in Syria, and one of them is called the anti-ISIS unit. So presumably they go around hunting ISIS units out. Anyway, but the point is, you've got quite a lot of strong units here. So we've got obviously this armour and these special forces. So these are going to really probably, we've got 2 lots of armour, 2 lots of mechanised, mechanised with motorised. Obviously I've gone through this, but if you actually look, so let's get a little tool out, if you actually look at what we've got here, it's quite strong. And so exactly how to do it, well, that's the thing, and that's sort of what I'm discussing now. But none of this is really going to hold up. But the thing is, strategically, what do we want to do? Now, strategically, we know already what we're doing. I mean, it's maybe not strategic, but operationally, we're going to cut this off, as we've already sort of determined, to isolate this pocket. That's actually what we're trying to do. But in the process of doing that, are we going to drive a wedge down here and a wedge down here and then contract this smaller and smaller? Are we going to drive a wedge through here and then drive it that way, forcing these units in theory off the board? Or are we going to come in this way and do the reverse and force all these units into there? So there's sort of three ways that we could do that. Obviously we could just go laterally in a straight line and force the ISIS units both that way and that way. So obviously once you've got all these lines, it looks pretty unintelligible, but hopefully you sort of get my point. There's what I'm saying is how do we want to do that. Now obviously I think the only thing that we need to really bear in mind here is ISIS likely to counterattack, and I just don't think they've got the power to do that. The only thing is they've got quite a bit of air defence in these sort of stacks, which is sort of going to limit the air power that we can use in there. We've got quite a lot of artillery, so you could sit there with this artillery here, and so let me get my little tool out again because I just love drawing. So we could use this artillery, which is a range of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So obviously we can go there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's always a sort of rectangle, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like that. So I'll probably go something like that. So that's pretty much the sort of, or something like this. That is the artillery range of this thing here. But if we move that to say there, we would shift that across like that. It's drawing really. But what I'm saying is, you want to actually use these long-range artillery pieces just to sort of, as part of the wallpaper, so to speak, on the larger picture over here, or do we want to actually strategically move them somewhere over here in support of these rockets, which have a much shorter range, 3, 1, 2, 3. So these rockets really have to sort of move in, with the units in support, etc., etc. And further, are these rocket units here, which have a range of 4, going to be a threat? So we probably have to keep pounding at these, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of point in moving forward, because these are just infantry units. They're going to move slowly, and they're going to be vulnerable. If they get any retreats, they could be in for a sting. So I think we're going to sort of maybe hold this line here, and certainly considering I talk for absolutely ever, I'm not going to sort of focus on that. What I'm trying to get to in the long and short of it, is that this game really focuses on this part of the board here and this offensive section here. All this is just really, decorative for the grander picture, but I thought I'd, put it in there. But to be quite honest, I just don't know how I would do it. I mean, I've been thinking about it today, and I'm sort of thinking, well, how much can you read into something as simple and unchallenging as this? But I just don't know how to do it. And you've got to remember there's some mines in there, and obviously there's sort of tank traps, but they're not really going to stop things. I think once the combat gets heavy, these things really make no difference at all. In fact, they're better to be in, because if you're in them, you get a defensive bonus. It's when you want to travel quickly through these that they can be a problem. But let's sort of, and when you move into them, of course, your turn ends, so that's a problem. That is a problem actually, because if I move into there I couldn't attack, so I can't move into there and attack. So what I'm going to do, I was looking forward to playing this, but obviously I just spent all talking. I just wish I could just sort of open it up and just start playing it, man. I just feel obliged to just talk crap for quite a while. I'm not going to use my rockets against them, so I mean I could just do this as a 4-to-1. Now the only thing is, and it's a bit of an odd one, and I'll have to find this out later, because he's gone into a zone of control, his movement will now be minus something, so if he doesn't partake in this battle, he'll be stuck there, so he's really got to partake in that. So that will be like a 7-to-1. Sometime this year. This is sort of connecting. Yeah, sometimes it does this. Let me see if I can prompt this. My computer is slow, so it sort of does that. Okay, 7-to-1 and a DE, and it looks as though, yep, it looks as though he did actually get eliminated. He was unit number 7. So let's see what has actually happened to unit number 7. He's not anywhere, he was actually eliminated, which is a 75% chance, because that is unit number, doesn't say on there, but there were 2 in there. Anyway, so we don't have enough movement to actually move in there though, but I want to move into there. What I've tried to do before is to get live streaming, because then you can just go on forever, but the quality is so crap, mainly because my computer's crap. But I think it's still not up to it. I think in a few years' time, when things change, as they obviously will, technology-wise, I'll just be able to sit here and play the whole game, like creating hour-long videos. I don't know how YouTube do it. They must have, they're going to need a server the size of the planet before too long. The amount of videos that people just upload. I know they've reduced it down to 1-hour videos now, but I'm not sure that was because of me. I don't know what to use my rockets on. I think I want to use my rockets on their artillery actually. Doesn't have the range. 1, 2, 3. No, it doesn't actually have the range, does it? Okay. Let me fire my rockets first. I've only got a few minutes left, a few seconds left. Okay, well that was good, because we've knocked them down a bit, but probably didn't really need to bother with that. 3-to-1 and a DI, that was because they were in there, and they were doubled, so there were 4. Or my attack was, yeah, well that's the result anyway. I'm bothered to think about how that actually worked. And we've still got some movement, which means we can do something here. Although, do we want to do that? How much movement have I got? Well, how many seconds have I got? 3. I'm not going to go anymore. I'll speak to you later. Bye.